Ready to go deep, brother?
Are you gonna set the screen, or are you the ball handler in the pick and roll?
Oh boy, we're getting technical.
Well, I just want your big shoulders.
Right now, I'm setting the screen.
Yeah, I want your big shoulders
Yeah.
setting the screen.
Yeah. I would take out a motherfucker for you. I already started with MF. Jesus Christ. Sorry, YouTube.
Thanks, man.
Yep, banned.
Are we
Dude,
banned?
are you surprised how good we feel after a Vegas trip?
I feel phenomenal.
Never better.
Yeah, how's Nick doing?
Not here.
Poor guy.
At least he texted us the SOP.
Yeah, the poor guy. He, to his credit, he hung in there every night until the wee hours.
Yeah. And by every night, we mean two.
2
'Cause
nights. Yeah.
That's like an eternity in Vegas.
2 nights was more than I could have ever asked for Nick to really be there in full force.
Do you guys think, because I came only one night, second night,
Yeah.
do you think you would have made it the second night? Like, would you have had enough powder to rally again?
I don't know that anybody would have made it the second night had you not brought your own energy, like day one energy, like on
Yeah,
day
because
2.
I was so fresh. I was
Yeah.
obviously like very fresh.
No, I think that's actually good alfalfa. If you're gonna do
Have reinforcements.
yeah, if you're gonna do like a Vegas weekend, have like the second wave come in.
Yeah, have a couple
fresh.
dads,
Yeah.
just show up.
I need this with the I need this energy.
See, I wasn't in the I need, like if you had an I need this dad, that's really
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, you didn't
Like
really
the
need
guy
it.
that needs to blow off some steam. Like I was like, I wanted to surprise, ironically, it's our other friend, Nick.
Yeah.
It was his bachelor party.
2 Nicks.
We had 2 Nicks in our lives. We got a few Nicks. And it was a phenomenal Vegas trip, though. So you guys, let's do a quick recap here.
Okay, well, I want to kind of like. Here's the thing, you get Vegas, and we're like old. We're old as fuck.
I don't agree with this statement.
Okay,
But continue.
so like we stacked up all these like activities, like activities.
Yes.
That's cool. We did like race car driving. We did Top Golf. We
Yeah.
did like a pool party during the day. Like
In 110-degree weather.
we did a pool party 110 degrees with no shade.
When I showed up, you guys had just finished being in 110 degrees for like 6 hours.
Yeah, that was a lot. I'll say this: there were some like not as old folks in there, and that
Yeah.
helps. Like having like that young man energy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is
Or
like,
just party boys. Like,
yeah, right. Because what
there
are
a
they?
few
They're
party
like
boys.
they're like 34,
Yeah.
but they still got it like 25.
25 energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to one of our guys on the trip who, like, I don't think this is like a club group. I'm certainly not a club guy. You're not a club guy.
No, we
But-
were.
Yeah, we've been there.
Oh, damn, I am old.
Yeah, come on. So that's like a line in the sand.
Shit.
If you you're old when somebody brings up the idea of like going to the club in Vegas, and how do you respond to that?
And you say hard pass.
Well,
Yeah.
I think each of us have like a good night or two left.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we went to the first night. So shout out to Milad. You guys, former manager of Omnia, arguably the greatest club in the world. Apparently $100 million sound system.
Really?
In Vegas, yeah. First night, you guys were at a table next to Steve Aoki.
Right behind him.
So that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Sounded like an amazing night. And he had some privileges. Apparently he's like a god in Vegas. I witnessed it the second night.
It's God in my eyes.
It was just red carpet. How many people, doesn't matter. How many bottles, doesn't matter. Go.
Everything was comped.
Everything.
This is the cheapest trip of my life. Bachelor party or whatever. It's just so cheap.
So second night is Zed, who's also incredible.
Yeah.
And then we had the balcony view, which
Yeah.
reminded me of that crypto meme with the Lord.
You were
know?
like you were lording over
I was
the
lording.
peasants.
Yeah. And obviously, just Zed, even GA would be incredible. But, being at the table, having that experience, the music was so good. Huge Alfalfa. I was like, hey, Milad, I don't think I can handle the volume. I haven't been to a club in a while, but I don't think I'm going to be able to handle the volume. Dude, you're right. I'm just like in denial.
You're saying that you're not old and you're wearing earplugs in the club.
This is wisdom. You don't want to blow your eardrum out anymore when you're 38. So anyway, I was like, Milad, like you were here every night. What did you do? He's like, oh, earplugs. We all have them. It's easy. No worry. I got you. So he immediately hooked me up with those. Dude, I had them on from the first moment I went in. What a wonderful experience. You can still hear everybody talk. Well, you can't hear anyone talk in a club in
You can't hear
Vegas.
anyone, period.
It's not like you're having a Von Deeper conversation. But, dude, the earplugs were so good.
Oh, man, you missed this. You mentioned GA, and I just have a funny story for you because it was like at the pool party before you had arrived. There was a lot of chatter about what we were going to do because we didn't have the club booked for the second night, and we were considering going to Club XS.
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay, good club, but that was going to be quite expensive, and
Yeah.
whatever. And the thought at the time that was like sort of like being passed around was like, that's okay, we'll just do general admission.
Ooh, wow.
And
Couldn't be more out.
yeah, at that moment, I kind of like raised my hand and I was like, guys, I don't often do this. Like nothing is below me. I'll like ride with anything, but I don't think I can do a club in Vegas GA. I don't think I'm built like this anymore. I can't
That's
do that.
where you spend the 10K.
Dude, if I'm being
whatever it
honest, like
takes.
I'm such not a club guy that like being in a club period is already difficult.
Mhm.
Being GA in a club, I just think I would turn around. Like,
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And I just remember Urbani's face. He's like, we found it. We found his line. Finally.
Yep. That's true. Yeah.
That's my line.
You're hedonically very well adapted.
Yeah, I can get
You
by.
you don't succumb to the treadmill the way the rest of us do.
Yeah, maybe. Like, things that I enjoy are typically cheap or free. Like I like good conversations like this we're gonna have. I like hanging out with the boys. I like camping. Like all that shit's cheap.
Yeah.
But going into a club, like I don't think I can do GA.
So speaking of a good conversation, I am extremely excited about this episode. While I do not mind, I love the foursome, the trio, the quad we have going on with the Alfalfa podcast. It inspires and creates phenomenal conversations. It's difficult to go deep, and there's been a lot of chatter in the Discord and in the community about, like, guys, let's get some Von Deeper. Let's talk about free will. Let's talk about these like deeper philosophical topics. And it was interesting to me because I assumed that people wanted market discussion. I was like, so markets, right? End of the world. And people were like, no. And then Dan Simmons came in. He's like, yeah, I 1000x agree with that previous statement. Like, please, no, that's been discussed already in the Discord. So I guess for the people out there that are like, fuck, I was expecting like end of the world talk this week. Well, you should hop in the Discord because things are being discussed in great detail, far better than we ever could on this
real time.
podcast. In real time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so by the time anyone even got the podcast, things would be outdated. So I'm really excited because you are literally one of my favorite people in the world to talk to. And one of the problems I realized we have is because we're sitting next to each other, I tend to speak at Nick and Steven more, and I don't really get to engage you.
You and me, baby. You and me today.
Yeah. No, it's going to be good.
Yeah, we used our irresponsibly long setup. This is like I'd call it a stadium of lights for two people right now. That's what we got going on.
Yeah.
We can go
Nice
really
and zoomed.
We can go really deep in this setup.
You're missing my Harrison Ford outfit, though. Derek Guy had this great write-up on how to wear shorts properly.
Oh, talk about it. This
Oh,
is
dude,
Alfalfa Round.
I'm doing it right now. It was like how tight the shorts should be, how long to short.
Okay, hold on.
So what I'm doing right now is
you-
I'm wearing some like loafers.
You might need to stand.
I'm wearing some loafers. I've got these like olive green shorts on. I'm very excited because Derek Guy is upping my style
You
right
mind
now.
giving a quick
No, I'm
turnaround
not
for
standing
the
around.
people?
No, but he was like, throw a long sleeve on the shorts. Here are the different types of shorts that look good, and then here are the different types of shoes you might wear with them, and layers and things like that. It's a little too hot for layers, but yeah, I wore this earlier, and I dropped off Mushi, our dog, to my wife, and she was like,
You were just getting raped?
Nice. No, my wife was like, "You look good today." I was like, "Yeah,
Damn.
that's my Harrison
Okay,
Ford
so
vibe."
that was like my one critique with Derek Guy, actually, is that his criticism, his critiques are only for suits, and they're only for a certain look that is like pretty antiquated, that might be coming back. But I was like, what about like, you know, like a normal person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, so I guess he's going into shorts now.
You'd like
That's
this
cool.
thread.
Yeah,
It
this
was a
sounds
good
great.
thread.
Sounds great.
Yeah, there was a lot of alfalfa in it. All right, so Vegas was a win. We feel great. Nick is incapacitated. Steven, if you didn't already notice, is also MIA, which means we get to go really, really deep. Of course, we miss them, but we're going nice and deep today. So let's do a quick intro and dive in. Welcome, everybody, to the Alfalfa Podcast. I'm back. I haven't been moderator in a long time. I'm your OG moderator, back in the saddle. We are live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. on YouTube. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Arman Asadi. This is Eric Johansson. Steven Cesaro and Nick Urbani are out this week. What's up to the chat? See, we got everybody here. Like the video, subscribe, share, leave a comment. Do all the things, you know?
Yeah.
Support the pod.
God, this, it's like you never left.
Few ways you can support the pod. Please comment, engage with us during the live stream. We tend to read comments out, engage with the community during the stream itself. If you'd like, we're a community supported podcast. You can donate to the podcast. The link is in the description below, streamlabs.com, or you can use the native super chat, which is through YouTube. Tweet this episode, share it with a friend. That's probably the best way to support the pod. Helps get the word out about the episode and the podcast itself. We are we were spawned in the crypto markets, and we have always leaned a little bit into crypto. We're money and meaning, but crypto is near and dear to our heart, and so we utilize on-chain collectibles / NFTs. You can collect them. Maybe they are worth something one day. Most likely they are not, but they are important memorabilia to own. So head to pods.media /alfalfa. This might be a great episode on free will. So make sure to collect this one as well. And I want to give a shout out to Eric on what we are drinking today. Please tell us.
Well, yeah, sort of last minute because half the team's not here, but you know, I have a Barolo, which is one of Armand's favorites, and then a Chianti Classico, which is one of my favorites. And I tried the Barolo earlier. It didn't fit me like a glove, but the Chianti, it's just right up my alley.
It's not doing it for you. Well,
Yeah.
I will say this Barolo you brought is 7 years old. This is not a virgin one.
Maybe
So-
that's my problem. It's like
Yeah.
I prefer virgins.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it's wonderful. I like it. This is a Paula Sordo 2017 Barolo. And of course, we made sure to take our Z-Biotics today. Shout out to our sponsor, Z-Biotics, the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. This is a pre-alcohol Z-Biotics. They are expanding their product line. We're going to be sharing more about that soon. But basically, make it the first drink of the night for a better tomorrow. This will make sure you feel good in the morning. And I took it in Vegas alongside some other protocols, actually, if you'd like to discuss. I introduced you to.
God. Yeah.
Let's talk about that. But took my Z-Biotics in Vegas, woke up feeling pretty damn solid after a huge night with very little sleep. It's engineered by a team of PhD microbiologists, Zach Abbott, who we had on the podcast. This is a probiotic that breaks down the byproduct of alcohol. That is what is responsible for your rough mornings, not dehydration, as is commonly believed. And so please head to zbiotics.com /alfalfa. Use our code alfalfa for 15% off, and that will support the pod. And remember, if you haven't tried this before, there is a money-back guarantee as well. So big thank you to Z-Biotics for supporting the pod.
Hell yeah.
All right. Ooh, tell me about your experience with Alka-Seltzer.
Can I? Yeah. Okay. So you not only did you come in with like fresh day one energy to Vegas, but you came in so prepared with like the hangover party pack,
Yep.
snack pack, which included Z-Biotics, but it also included help me. It was Alka-Seltzer, activated charcoal pills.
Yeah, and personally, I took a Pepsid AC / it's like a combination of Pepsid AC and Tums as well. By Pepsid AC. It's
there
their chewable format.
Okay, did we have any? What do they call that? What are those salts that's like in Gatorade?
Like electrolytes?
Electrolytes. Did we have any of that?
No.
Didn't even need it.
I mean, Alka-Seltzer,
Provides
I think,
that.
is like sodium,
So
types of sodium.
Alka-Seltzer is that.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So-
it helps. It's marketed as like heartburn relief, but my dad gave me this alfalfa when I was young, coming home drunk after partying, and if I was sick or not feeling good, he would give me Alka-Seltzer. It was the last thing I wanted. It was so salty. The formula has improved so much since then, but it made me feel much better. It calms, it mellows the entire system, right? You've been mixing, you've been drinking, you've been partying, and so it just mellows the system. And then you take activated charcoal, soaks up toxins, and you combine that with, because we talked to Zach, the Zbiotic CEO, about activated charcoal. And if I remember correctly, he was like, yeah, that's not going to hurt, but you need a lot of it. He was like, you need a lot of it to like actually do anything. Anecdotally, I still like it.
He did poo-poo it a little bit.
He poo-pooed it, yeah.
But you know what? You take some.
Yeah.
What's it gonna do? What's it gonna do wrong for you? But when you gave me that little snack pack, I felt phenomenal. And we're talking like a big night, like a Vegas club night up till 4 a.m. and beyond. This was a big night, and like the next morning we woke up. You and I are feeling good.
Yeah.
I don't know if Nick took this pack because he was in a different room.
No, he was in a different room.
He's in a different room, but he's dead now. He's dead now. So
Poor guy.
Poor guy.
He still was able to text us. That was
right. Yeah. God bless Nick because he was still like making sure that the stream is okay and everything.
Dude, you and I were sitting here at 5:05 just talking, and then I looked at the time. I'm like, holy shit, bro.
Yeah, we
gotta go live. Oh man, yeah. No, it was good. It was good. You have any other alfalfa?
No, I think this is just like the whole Vegas thing. I think the Vegas thing is this. Like, here's what I was talking to you about. I think I discussed it with Nick a little bit, which is like we're getting to a certain age where like we were in a club in Las Vegas, and like that might be the last time we're ever in a club. Ever.
We had a ceremony of sorts.
Yeah, like maybe it's not the last time, but we're nearing our end.
It's a good perspective to always actually consider that it could be the last time.
And when I brought that up to you, you were like, first you're like, well, don't say that, but then you're also like, well, that's actually pretty cool, and you can apply this to almost everything in life. And I think that's where I want to lead this alfalfa, where it's just like, like everything in life is finite. But when you show up, like come correct, and like we fucking did in this Vegas club, we like brought the whole energy, like it was our last day, even if it wasn't.
Do not go dying into the light.
Fine. Yeah. What's the quote?
It's basically that.
Yeah.
What is it exactly? Yeah, it's something like that. It's actually they've even like worked it into music sometimes. It's like.
It's a quote from one of my favorite movies of all time, Interstellar.
Ah, they do use it in Interstellar.
Oh, yeah.
Rage, rage, rage into the dying of the light.
Yes.
There it is. Yeah. It was somewhere there. Yeah, well said. Every moment in life, every experience in life is unique as well. So even if it's not the last time that you were to experience that, why not embrace it as this is it, in the sense that the weather will never be the same. These people will never be here in this configuration again. This time in my life, I will never be this age again, in this moment of my life again. And so many times we allow critical moments that they are every moment, arguably, in life is a critical moment. All experience is a critical experience. It is the experience. There is nothing else. And yet we treat so many experiences as if they're just another day.
I'm guilty of that. But yeah, I think we all are.
We all are. It reminds me of that gratitude video I posted in the Discord about 4 weeks ago. Did you ever watch that?
Remind me.
It's based on a TED Talk actually. Louis Schwartzberg is a filmmaker, and he created a short film. It's not 6 minutes. It's a short video about gratitude. And so if you Google gratitude Louis Schwartzberg, it is beautiful. I woke up to that video, sort of essentially meditating to that video every day for like 2 years. And about a month ago, I just sort of felt inspired to pull it back up again. And I've been watching it all the time again. And so I decided to post it in the Discord and share with people. But it's so beautiful, and it talks about exactly what I just mentioned.
God, what a Alfalfa. It's something you listen to every morning. Like,
I used to.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It was
awesome.
part of I used to take my morning ritual like really seriously before baby life.
God, if you saw mine, you would just be miserable. I think you'd be fucking miserable. Because like I wake up so goddamn early, and the first thing I do is like straight to the coffee machine, slam, like at least slam one, and then like the second one comes like shortly after.
Is this a full coffee or an espresso?
Full coffee.
Okay. Cream or no?
No, just black.
You
But
raw dog it?
yeah, I'm raw dog. But I actually am like back on board with the idea of like maybe adding some cream, because I think a little fat and sugar is actually maybe beneficial. Like I'm seeing a lot of shit on Twitter now where they're saying like,
What's good about sugar?
I just think that, we have these like enemies. We've like created these enemies in our lives, and these enemies have like transformed over time. Like at one point it was saturated fats, and then at another point it was carbs,
Yes.
and another point it's sugar. And like I just don't know that these enemies are real, because like every time I look back at the previous enemy, I was like, it was never real. And I'm wondering now, like, is sugar an enemy? I don't know.
Was it just propaganda?
Well, I'm just wondering, because like
Yeah.
every time you look back, you're like, saturated fat's good for you. You look back.
I think that's really fair to have that skepticism. I think that's really important. From my understanding, again, I have more questions than answers on this, but from my understanding, I think it's pretty consensus that at least sugar is clearly an enemy. But I think you're right about like, especially a little bit of fat can be beneficial. It doesn't help the body go into ketosis if you're having like calories in the morning or you're eating or anything like that. But I'm kind of over the intermittent fasting lately.
Well, that's like a whole nother thing too. It's like how these things interact with certain people's bodies and lifestyles is so important to delineate. Like if somebody's trying to be in ketosis, well then a fat is going to operate differently with that person's diet than somebody else's. And I think sugar's the same way. Like I'm a pretty active guy. Like every day I'm
Yeah.
active, and it's like I think like carbs in general are sort of a friend to me, that includes sugar in such a way that I'm like burning it and not letting it just like turn into like fat on my body.
That makes sense. Speaking of like health and wellness, one of our alfalfa goats, Feech, is like the god in this area, in my opinion. Did you ever see his rant and write up on eating cells?
Yes, I sure did. And I love all of our Discord members for all of their like unique perspectives, but Feech is very good at like that angle for sure.
Dude, his eating cells write up, I'll throw this out to him right now, so just consider me talking to you right now, Feech. I think we should turn that into an essay. And I think he should drop that into Claude or ChatGPT and clean that up and publish that. I think it was phenomenal. And I think you should publish that, Feech, and I'll retweet it and share it. I would love to, because it was one of the best things I've read in the last month. And if you don't want to, I'll publish it and just give you credit somehow, whether you want to be anonymous or pseudonymous or whatever. But it was so good. It was so interesting to think about. Basically, it was what you and I have talked about many times. It was like, just eat food, eat real whole food.
Yes.
And that food is alive, filled with real cells that exist and move, versus like your Pop-Tarts that are just so
Yeah.
dead.
Right.
Like you might be eating macros and calories, but you're not really eating anything.
Dude, I play tennis with this guy who's like vegetarian, and I think he's doing it for like health reasons. And he'll like literally eat Pop-Tarts like after we play tennis, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like this
Yeah.
can't be better for you.
Is a lot of people are focused on just hitting their macros. They're not focused on the impact that food is fuel. Food is energy. And you convert that, you process that, and you convert that, and you take that into your body and your organs. And so the impact that those cells from that food has on the body, there's a symbiosis there that is overlooked, I think.
You know what? I think I hope we're going to dive into something similar a little later, but I have more on this. But
Okay.
I kind of want to. I know where we're going today, and I kind of want to like dig in more later.
Well, I have a question for you to kind of I think we need to touch on the markets in the world given the state of it, even if just briefly. You know, in crypto, there's this saying, "Wag me, we're all going to make it." Might have been a psyop.
you think this is just like a okay, yeah, it could, yeah.
Nah, I mean, I'm kidding. I think it's an important like flag to plant. You know, if you're going to invest in a speculative asset like crypto, like you better believe you're going to make it. If not, what are you doing? But the real question I have is like, are we all going to make it? Not just in crypto, but with the state of the world, the state of the union. Not sure how much you've been following, but just curious your take on the state of things.
I think most people know me well enough by now to know that I have not been following the state of things closely, like as closely as you guys. Meaning like the geopolitical sphere. I try to like stay out of that. This like drawdown in asset prices impacted me significantly. I'm fucking poor. I'm poor. I wake up. So this happened on Sunday, right? Like we were in Vegas,
Yeah.
and like the dominoes are falling, and it's just like, oh, I am so poor. And then waking up on Monday, I wasn't even like in a state of mind to wake up at my normal time on Monday. I slept in, and then like I wake up, I text my business partner, and my business partner's like, go back to bed. Like I'm just fucked. I'm not immune to this, but I would say that I maintain a large cash position sort of at all times. The reason why I do that is like mostly to like be able to sell options on things, and that's like kind of like the way that I do it. But now I have this big cash position that I can like deploy into assets that I like that are beaten down, and I've started to do that. You kind of have to, like when this moment comes.
So you do feel like you have to in this moment. You feel like you have enough information about the state of things, though, that you can no.
No, I mean I don't understand the state of things really at all. Like is the world going to shit? We're in the fourth turning. The world's like going to shit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I mean, like perhaps it is, but like I still think like this was my conversation to you on the phone. Like I still just think that commerce is going to just continue. Like businesses continue to service customers and sell products. Like Nvidia is going to continue to sell chips, and like I'd rather just think of the world that way than to think of like everything that's going wrong. I just want to think of what's going right, and I think like businesses are going to continue doing business, and I like to own things that are still the same.
So I'm not sure it matters how much why this all happened, but I mean, there's a lot of reasons to just, you know, earnings, unemployment, war, potentially breaking out into regional, if not world war, civil wars as well, looking like they are on the brink of, the yen, the interest rate, the stock market in general in Japan, biggest losses in I don't even know how many years. A lot of factors. Does it even matter which one is like the cause?
It's like,
Is it all of them, and it doesn't really matter, and it's just a matter of what to do as a result of that?
right. It's like, yeah, you didn't even mention the carry trade in Japan, which is like what everybody's focused on. You know what, dude? I don't care. I love that. I love that you asked it like that because I actually don't care. I've been around long enough, and like I even like went back in the data just to like look at what was going on at these times during like 1995 and 2001. You know, like when we were in like a really intense bull market, which is what I think we're in now. We had 3 pullbacks of like 12% plus, 12%, 15%, 20% during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what those were called? Asian crisis, Russian crisis, recession fear. Same shit that we have going on now. Like the market's just going to give you these like fears at times. In my mind, I'm buying. But like, when do you buy and how much? That's like what I'm really focused on now. It's like, am I like, I have a 30% cash position. Am I like shoving it all in right now? No. But like, I am deploying now. And I think basically, I think that we're going to have like a month or two of, you know, figuring out where this bottom is.
And you don't have any concern that you're like catching a falling knife?
Yeah, of course, you know, like if I'm buying now, I feel like I'm probably catching a falling knife. But like, what am I buying? I'm buying things that I loved already. You know, like I was like gonna buy more Bitcoin at 66K.
Yeah.
Like a second ago.
Yep.
Like just because I was like, yeah, Bitcoin sounds like something I want to own more of, and now it's
55, 56.
55. Yeah. So I'll buy more. Like I'll buy a little bit more of that. Maybe it goes down to 51 or something. Like, do I care that much? Like same with Nvidia. Same with like, I'm playing these like infrastructure AI plays, which are just name some names. You know, like Credo, ANET, FN, Munters. You know, things that I like that I liked before, that I still like. Something I'm probably going to be really in on is hymns.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be like very in on hymns.
Why?
Well, because I sold a shitload of puts at $17. And
Okay.
it's at $16 now.
Okay.
So I think I'm gonna be like a big owner of hymns, but like I love hymns.
Okay. Is that the one where the guy got in trouble for his like pro-Palestine stance, or is that a different ED company?
I fucking hope not. But
I think it is, by the way.
I just really like the idea of a pharmaceutical type company that focuses only on like narcissism. You know, just like dick pills, weight, dermatology, just like how people look. Yeah. I really like that. And I like the idea of you take like this like really valuable industry, which is like pharma. And I know, just because I know myself and I know others around me that like don't understand how like the healthcare system works at all. And if you can just provide a little better like user experience, then maybe you unlock something nice. They're getting in the GLP-1 game. They're like in the GLP-1 game.
Are those the two metas? Is like AI, maybe AI infra, just AI generally speaking, and like the vanity meta?
Sounds great to me. I think vanity meta should just be like something you invest in forever, just because humans gonna human.
Yeah. But it's not a vanity meta. I think that it's actually a longevity meta.
Well, it certainly services both.
It services both. But my point is, I think what we're finding is that the vanity meta pharmaceuticals are actually now being extremely sort of effective in longevity studies and longevity outcomes is as a byproduct. I mean, like even the GLP-1s, like they weren't designed for weight loss; they were diabetes. Then it was like, okay, weight loss was a side effect, and so they became more popular for that use case.
Totally.
Now it's like, wait a second, this could have like a very positive impact on your life from a cardiovascular longevity perspective as well. It could be impacting unknown levels of health and wellness that we can't even begin to fathom yet. And so have we actually like just started to itch this whole longevity meta? I
mean, perhaps. I think you brought up Feach earlier. Feach would say that this is actually 2 steps backwards, not 1 step forward. But I think that's like TBD. You know, I tend to like not try to think so pragmatically about that, right? Like, what is the answer? Instead, thinking about like, what are people going to do, and how do they perceive the answer? So, like, I can't remember who said this. Who said this? You know. The quote is something to the effect of like, everything in life is about sex, except sex. That's about power.
I don't know.
Have
who
you ever
said
heard that before?
No.
I just think that like everybody on earth just wants to like be more sexy and like better looking, and like this is just like an underlying human thing that I want to invest in. If like a pill or a shot can like improve your really like lizard brain feeling of like the fact that you're sexier, I want to be all in on this.
Yeah, I think that completely makes sense. And we are animals, and the desire to be desired is very powerful. That's basically what that alludes to.
Yeah.
I wonder who did say that. So, outside of the markets, and maybe even related to the markets, there's a lot of unrest. And I think that's a light way of putting it. I mean, like, quick overview.
Yeah, give us a quick overview.
Quick overview. I mean, again, you say like, oh, we're so much more into it. I'm not even into it. I'm way too busy running a startup. But like, here's what I've seen going on. UK, England, Northern Ireland in particular is like exploding, way worse than anyone thought. It was all sparked by a absolutely heinous, brutal mass murder, stabbing. Children died. Social media perpetuated the idea that it was a Muslim immigrant. It was not. People poured out into the streets and started rioting. The media labeled them as far-right lunatics. I don't know if they were. That's the way they were labeled. Ironically,
so England has this going on too. The far-right lunatics, like.
well, yeah, that's exactly what they were labeled. But I mean, the scenes are crazy. I mean, the scenes are all over Twitter. They're crazy, and then you've got the migrants as well marching on the streets, and that looks terrifying, in unison, and it just looks terrifying. Then you've got even places like Bangladesh that are on the brink of real chaos. They killed 280. That was the last stat I saw maybe 3 days ago. 280 people have been killed by the government and police in protests. 200 shot, live ammunition, killed, dead, shot on arrival. Yes.
Well, I don't know.
That's in Bangladesh.
I don't know a damn thing about Bangladesh. Last time I heard about Bangladesh, I think was like the leader of Bangladesh had a mansion that people were like invading his house and swimming in his pool. I mean,
yeah.
I just don't know anything about it.
I believe it started as student protests, but again, it doesn't even matter how these things are incepted because there are so many different motives, ideologies, emotions at play all at the same time that it's kind of like George Floyd. George Floyd wasn't all about one man getting brutally murdered by the police. It was actually about an ideology that was underexposed and had a desire to express itself, and it resulted in mobs of people doing terrible things, but also demonstrating their position that enough is enough.
Right, that was like a catalyst to express an underlying feeling. I think that was awesome, actually, what you just said, because that's not like something that people talk about, really. It's like they just say it was like causal. So like George Floyd then this. No, it's like that was already like an undercurrent, and that was just a catalyst to like ignite it.
I have a question for you. Fun little game. How many unarmed black men do you think were murdered by police in 2019? Like recent random year.
I have no
in the
idea.
United States.
I mean, like, I wouldn't even know what number is like within a ballpark range.
I know, but this is a study they do. So what do you think?
I mean, probably 3 digits, not 2 and not 4. 3 digits of unarmed black men.
This is going to blow your mind. I believe the exact number is 11.
11 unarmed black men. Say it again. 11 unarmed black men were killed by police.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's already
The way they do this
probably
study,
too
it was a
much.
really great chart on X. It was actually looking at the distribution of answers across political leanings. Obviously, the more left-leaning you were, the higher you thought that number was. The more right-leaning you were, the lower you thought that number was. And in actuality, the number was 11. And so Stephen's not here, but he might say that one of the greatest psyops was this. I don't want to speak for Stephen, but I think this is like something that he might address. I'm just saying it in that way, that he might say like that was a psyop to make people believe that a lot of unarmed black men were being murdered. I also would 100% say that I assumed it must be thousands. The way that I'd been led to believe is that this is a huge a sort of like epidemic. You know, this is a monstrous problem. And so what happens, the reason I bring up that point is because if you believe that a problem is much, much, much bigger. See, it doesn't, I want to also, there's nuance there. It doesn't mean that black people aren't getting way mistreated more than white people.
Yeah, mistreated. Yeah.
But if the crux of the issue is like murdered and like they can't drive without the possibility of getting pulled out of the car and shot in the head, that's 11. Okay. So when you believe that that's the level of the problem, if it happens, that is like the ultimate spark to your baseline feelings of reality. And so things can explode very quickly. Even this migrant crisis, I would ask myself, like, is it it makes me skeptical about everything. Like, is there a huge I don't know. It just changes everything.
I've thought about that too, because like we've heard about like millions,
17 million people entering the country.
Is it
really?
Is it 11?
Is it 11? I mean, I don't know. And that's the world that we live in now. Like Eric Weinstein has pointed this out so many times, that we're living in a sort of reality where we have absolutely no idea what is true anymore. We don't know.
Okay, and they're like, okay, this is pretty good, Alpha. Like, how do you, like, let me preface it. I deal with it in a different way. I avoid it. I avoid it to not have to even like go down the path of judging. Is it thousands or is it hundreds or is it 11? And then with the migrant thing, is it millions or is it 11? I just avoid it, and I try to like just focus on my own life, and that's how I deal with it. But how do you deal with it when you're trying to like find truth in the world?
Yes.
In the same way that like everybody in our Discord and everybody in our community is like literally trying to find truth and like bouncing off each other to find the truth. How do you do it?
That's such a great question, dude. First of all, I completely acknowledge, respect, and admire your natural disposition and your ability to just like ignore it. As Marty might say, Zen fucking Eric. Like, it's a true testament to who you are. It's incredible. So I think that it's completely individualistic. It's based on your disposition, personality traits, your character. But we're also who we want to be. So if you wanted to care instead of be ignorant, you would. You would just be like, I'm really into this and I'm going to care. But I do believe that the baseline personality plays a big part in our desire to face or not face certain realities. Personally speaking, again, this is just me, I find power in that awareness and knowledge. And the reason I do is because I believe that I have a responsibility as a man to stay abreast of these issues in order to actually protect my family and myself. I actually view it as a baseline responsibility. What's going on in the world? Who's going to become president? What's the state of the union? What's the state of the world? Where is there conflict? Where is the money flowing? Who's going to dictate the next policies that might affect me and my family, my community, my state, my country? all of those, and what is the general sociological preferences of people right now, and how are people leaning? There's so many things within that, but I have found that for me, there's more power in the knowledge. I also think that Plato was correct that if I'm ignorant to those facts, then I'm accepting reality and governance as it's given to me, and I don't get to have a say in it. Whereas if I'm taking the other side of the bet, I would probably, if I'm steelmaning myself, I would say, regardless of my disposition, Plato, it is what it is.
Plato, ain't nobody got any fucking say in whatever the government is trying to do. Like, sorry, Plato. Like, whatever you want to fucking vote for or whatever you want to be involved in, nothing matters. That's the problem, Plato. And that's where I land. Because I agree with you that, like, as a man, like, your job is to, like, provide for your family and, like, you know, like, you care about your loved ones and make the world better for them. So I think I just try to cut out the middleman. Like, I just do that. I just try to provide for my loved ones and make life as best as I can for us, you're included, instead of, like, worrying and spending energy on this thing that Plato believes that we have influence on, which I do not believe we do.
If we don't have influence on it, who or what do you think does? And if we don't get to have a say, I guess, yeah, your answer is don't worry about it. But who or what does?
I did say this, like, a million episodes ago. At one point, I can't even remember what what context of the conversation was, but I do remember this, where I said, like, something along the lines of, I'm so glad that, like, other people do care about this, and that allows me the freedom to not. Because if there are no watchdogs or no whistleblowers, there's nobody watching, then, like, they run rampant. They, meaning, like, the philanderers, the ones who are taking advantage of everyone, they run rampant. And we can't run rampant because, like, we have these watchdogs, these, like, whistleblowers on top of them, and they can't do too much. Like, that's the state of affairs now. You know,
so even those that may have a say actually are pawns.
But being a pawn is okay. I think being a pawn is okay. Like, if you're another watchdog, another whistleblower in the world that is, like, making sure malarkey doesn't go too far afield, great. I think that is a necessary part of, like, the stage performance. Like, somebody has to play that role. I just don't want to play that role. But if somebody else wants to do it, then that unburdens me.
Oh, Jesus.
Unburden me by what has been.
Are you a communist? Oh, I can't wait to be unburdened. I'll be honest with you. If Kamala wins, we're all going to be unburdened by what has been, and we'll never feel better. Like, that's the beauty. Have you seen this? Got to maybe, like, to start to close the politics thing and State of the Union. Have you seen some of these, like, unburdened by what has been clips? She's done it like 100 times. She has like a few things that she repeatedly says. Unburdened.
Yeah.
And then what's her other one? Where she just does, like, word salad.
Okay, so I was like, I'm not a tinfoiler. You know, like, I think we did, like, maybe in, like, early episode 10 or something, we did, like, a tinfoil Eric thing, and Marty was like, yes, keep going with that. I'm like, I'm not that. Like, I'm not a tinfoil guy. So I'm not really interested. But I do remember I said to myself, or maybe to you guys, if Kamala wins this election, then I am going to, like, probably fall off the rails because nobody liked her. Trump was dominating. Biden is lost. And when she comes back into the fray. No, first of all, nobody liked her, but then the polls immediately flip. Like, no, she's like leading the polls. This is the kind of thing that leads me just like off the rails. So it's either going to be one of two things. It's either the polls are so wrong, which is what I believe, and Trump's going to win,
Mm-hmm.
or that this whole thing's rigged and she wins. And if, in my mind,
Yeah.
I guess in my mind, if this thing is like so rigged and she wins, because I don't think anybody likes her. Like I don't know a single person that like liked her before, and now that she's a presidential candidate, I don't think you can like change that quickly. Like, how do you change that quickly?
Well, people do like her now because the media is telling people to like her now.
Do you think that like, okay, hold on. Do you think that like people are that susceptible to the media? Am I the weirdo? I don't watch news. I don't watch news.
Eric, I love you. Yes, wake up. Like,
What?
do you
Like-
not understand how easily people are manipulated?
I don't
and brainwashed?
understand why.
I don't know what to think until the powers that be, in essence the media, tells me what to think. Is the state of being of the majority of human being in the world, let alone the country.
So
Kamala, those poll numbers, I don't know if they're real, but I can tell you that the psyop that's occurring is one in which we're going to make her look like she is extremely cool and popular until she is extremely cool and popular.
yeah.
It's
So
that simple.
So I guess like what's easier to me, if I'm gonna like Occam's razor this,
Yep.
is like what's easier is instead of like making her more popular, we'll increase the poll numbers to make her appear more popular.
Correct.
So instead
I
of
believe
her
that's
being
what's happening, too.
instead of her being at 30% popularity, which she literally was before Biden resigned.
Brother, people fake studies on the impact of eggs and cigarette smoking and alcohol. You think they're not leaning into the poll numbers that are, and the people that are going to give the poll numbers that are you kidding me? Academics are faking not faking,
Manipulating.
slicing data
Yeah.
in a way to present it in a propagandistic way that leads to the outcomes that they want. More funding, awareness for their causes. You think the fucking president of the United States isn't being sliced in that way? That's exactly what's happening. You already said that. I agree with you. That is exactly what's happening. The poll numbers are being
They
manipulated.
pull the same people over time. These fucking people were at like 30%, and now she's at 51%. Like
She hasn't spoken in 4 years. She hasn't done anything in 4 years.
she was invisible.
She was invisible.
Like,
She's
the
never
fucking
been
Democratic
elected to
Party
office.
hid her on purpose because they fucking didn't want her there.
Now they just have her cackling on stages and not saying anything. So
What I'm saying
agree.
is that, like, yeah, we agree. The poll numbers, I think, are the easiest thing to manipulate, meaning, like, hey, the poll numbers were 30%. Let's make them 51%. And then people start to think maybe, oh, well, she's
and that
pretty,
changes you.
she's pretty popular.
Of course. And now I'm walking down the street and I see cat ladies for Kamala T-shirts on when I go get coffee. I do. I just saw that the other day. Cat
She
ladies.
sounds rad.
Cat ladies for Kamala. By the way, cats have become a single voter issue.
You know what? I'm allergic to cats, but if I'm being honest, I like cats. I have a little affinity in my heart for cats, even though they make me sneeze. I like cats. But, you know,
Yeah, look, I think where we're at is, people talk about this idea of like, can the election actually be stolen ever, and is there corruption within the election process? I think that's so funny to ask that question, because it's not about the poll, it's not about the results and manipulating those numbers. It isn't that the election gets stolen on election day. The election is manipulated throughout the campaign cycle. When the media is doing what it's doing today, which is to perpetuate this idea that this candidate is actually able to lead the greatest nation and the most powerful nation on earth, that is the greatest lie of all time. Like, this is a joke. She still doesn't have a fucking economic policy on what to do with inflation. She can't answer those questions. I mean, we're all seeing the same clips. And if you're out there and you're like, I support this woman, ask yourself why. Really ask yourself what she has said or done that, anyway, all that aside, it's happening in real time. So the manipulation is downstream. It's upstream, excuse me. It's upstream. It happens before you ever get to the election, before you ever get to vote. It's all about propaganda. And America is very, very good with this propaganda machine. We think we're like so pure, but we're not.
I agree. And I'll come clean with you here without the tainting of our brethren.
The tainters?
Yeah, the tainting of our
I
brethren.
can't believe these guys taint their buttholes.
Yeah, fuck them.
Yeah.
What I want to say, like, you know,
Like,
I
who
think
does that?
I've come on record to be like the biggest like e-tard of all of us. I've come on record at times to be like the most this or the most that of all of us, right? I think like I'm definitely not the most Republican of all of us. I think that little like ideology test we took might have said that I was.
Yeah.
But I actually think I'm quite moderate. I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I think if there was
you are
like a,
too.
I think if there was like a Democratic candidate that was pretty moderate, I'd like be all for that, if I'm being honest. What I don't like about like the Democratic platform at large is just like this DEI woke crap.
It's done anyway.
I just think that this, like, what they've stood for so long, I want that, because you and I have talked kind of for months now that the pendulum has swung too far. I want that pendulum to have swung too far in actuality, and I want this vote to be like the signification of that, so that the Democratic Party can like find a new thing to latch onto, because this one fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm like tired of it.
Yeah.
So let's find a new one.
I don't know if you saw Bill Ackman's tweet. He tweets a lot, and they're very long, and they're too much. I need a TLDR most of the time. But he had a fire one recently that said the best thing that can happen to the Democratic Party is to lose, and that will require to completely reinvent itself. And even as a let's get this straight. I've been a Democrat my whole life. I don't think. I think, let me clarify that for people who listen to the show. Like, I've literally been, like, that's how fucked up this party is, that I've been a Democrat my entire life. I've only ever voted Democrat. But if you listen to the things that I've said, you might think I'm like some fucking alt-right guy, because that's what anyone that doesn't espouse the beliefs of the left is immediately cast in that light. But the point here is, like, I want the Democratic Party to stand for the things that I stood for. I'm like a Bill Clinton Democrat. You know what I mean? Like that that was an era where it made sense.
I know you stand for that.
Yeah. I mean, of course. Freedom.
Freedom.
I'm a libertarian. But yeah, that's the idea here. So anyway, my prediction, if Trump doesn't win, if Trump wins, the pendulum swings fully. We enter a new era, and we begin the first turning of prosperity and alignment toward new values. And there will be a rigidity and an authenticity toward a new way of life and a new way for the economy, and a new way like everything, borders, sociology, the culture at large, and that will then carry itself over to the rest of the world this time. It won't be a backlash. It'll be like a new way forward. If he doesn't win and Kamala or a Democrat wins, I think we go so far into chaos mode that we might get to the brink of civil war. We may even result in something akin to civil war that will cause the entire system to break. I think that break will be much larger than the break that we'll see for this election. I think no matter what, this election probably gets contested to some degree by both parties. The Democrats will contest the election before the election by psyoping people, by using propaganda, by powering the media. The right will not accept the election results, may march on the Capitol again, may not accept the results, may cause some sort of civil war, and they'll be cast as like, fucking rule breakers and thieves.
That's the
and
crazy irony,
whatever.
because like the left side is the one that's like supposedly like maintaining democracy, and
Yes.
they're the ones that you're more afraid of.
I'm afraid of both situations. I'm afraid of all situations. But yeah, I think what happens is if the Democrats win, we go into pure chaos. I don't think we make it through those 4 years. I think there's something akin to like a civil war that occurs during that reign. And it will cause that new system that is born as a result of that to be much more unique and new compared to the one that would be under Trump, if that makes sense. So like something fundamentally might shift. I think especially like economically during like that kind of a change, especially if it occurred in the middle of an administration.
I gotta say, I think we did a pretty good job of talking politics, you and I.
I know we don't even care about this.
Yeah. This is,
So do you care about this Google thing, the antitrust thing, before we hit the free will?
I just more like to see what you think about it, because like I don't know if people in the Discord or in our chat saw that Google was slapped with antitrust, meaning like Google search was deemed monopolistic, and that to me, just at its headline, sounded severe. The stock price responded in a pretty muted fashion, and like it slapped Apple and Samsung in like a similar fashion, because like those guys use Google search. So I don't know if that was something that you found interesting.
I do. I think it's really important. They clearly have had a monopoly on search for a long time. I guess the question I ask myself is, I actually don't know the stats, but like how much search have they already lost as a result of AI?
Yeah, I don't know either, but like we've had this debate going on for maybe like 8 months now between Eric Puncher and maybe me and Nick Urbani in the tech channel in our Discord of like, is Google going to be okay, if search gets disrupted? It seems like
So there's been some really good arguments by Eric Puncher, and where have you landed on that most recently?
Well, I'm still an owner, a shareholder, but like this last domino didn't feel great. I think like, we don't have our money gurus next to us, but like, I just feel like Google's so good. Like as a company, they have all the data. This is what Nick has said before. They have all the data. They can do whatever they want with the data. It sounds like a prime position to be in. I'm still a Google shareholder. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I'm not as bullish because I think like data doesn't provide the moats that it used to. I think there's so much new data being created that it sort of discounts a lot of the data up till today. Of course, Nick would say like the data that Google has is very personal, and extremely valuable for advertisers and them to create new products and services based on. And I get that, but I think we live in a new world now, and I don't think that the moats are in the data, personally. I also think it has a lot to do with your ability to execute. And Google has showed that it actually struggles to execute lately. And by the way, I say all this as a former Googler, so I have like respect for Google on the one hand. It's a place that I started my career, but I am not seeing a culture and a talent being attracted to the company that is top tier anymore. When I was there, I was the only non-Stanford, Harvard graduate. I mean, pretty much everybody. So
Yeah,
Google was
everybody
famous for that. And then Apple was famous for accepting people from San Jose State. But there was no way ever in 2008 that you could go to San Jose State and get into Google. And so I just got lucky, I guess, but going to San Diego State University. But
Harvard of the West, we call it.
Harvard of the West. Exactly. But the point was, I was surrounded by some of the smartest people in the world. I mean, genuinely. That's maybe that is still the case to a certain degree, but the type of talent that today goes to Google, it's become less of a high threshold for talent, for success, and one that has sort of just. I mean, we've seen the memes. Like what can I say? We've seen the memes. Like we know what it is, and so I like to bet on the companies that attract the top talent personally,
Okay,
and I don't think they do.
that's fair. But like, I think
OpenAI does, Microsoft does, Perplexity does. These are the companies. Anthropic does.
I mean, are we
Like,
talking?
I want to work at if I'm not going to be an entrepreneur, I want to work at Anthropic. I don't want to work at Google.
That might be enough for me. Like, I guess I would just ask this one question to you. So, like, coming from what do they call that? That big three, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton,
Ivy League.
Ivy League, non-Ivy League. Like, we've all had to kind of like make our own way, like in our own little niches. We've had to make our own way, and we've had to like carve our own paths. And my thought immediately is like that, like the Googles of the world still acknowledge success when they see it, right? Like, is that true?
What do you? They acknowledge success in people, or
Yeah. So like somebody who has like demonstrated success outside of school, like in work, in their
Yeah.
work product.
oh well, yeah. So what I didn't say is Google has evolved its policy. They used to only take 4.0 or higher. They used to only take Ivy League. They opened their eyes and they changed their prescription to what they deem to be successful. So they changed it in the last like 5-6 years or so. So yeah,
Yeah. So I guess like
they
what
totally changed it.
what I'm asking is like, because we both know, and like if you're gonna like hire somebody, like there's like a discerned difference between the person that like knows how to, when you say jump, they don't just say how high, they just like hit the height metric that you demand.
Yep.
And then there's another person who like is curious and is like asking like, why are we jumping? What's the purpose? And is there a better way than jumping? Is there like other things that we could be doing? So like there's like different metrics towards success, which I would say that the four of us of anybody are like really more qualified in doing, is like really understanding simply, like more simply than just like answering a question, like I think that's like what our strength is.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that the top talent in the world approaches their job that way, where it's not just like a sort of system of hitting a KPI, but of like, accelerating toward the outcome in the best way, regardless of like the constraints that your job might give you. Back in the day, for me, like the problem was like they gave me very clear constraints of what I was allowed to do, and so having a bit of a rebellious personality and always having an entrepreneurial inclination, it didn't make sense for me. But yeah, there's plenty of people that can fit into an organization like that and succeed. But I mean, look, back to your original point, like, are we concerned about Google and what does the antitrust thing mean? I guess, like, are you, well, you're a shareholder, so you're biased, but like, are you glad that like, cause this has been like in the sort of like making for a long time. Like so many people have wondered, like, how has Google not been deemed to have a monopoly?
Right. Yeah. So it seems like in the near term, they're not going to be able to pay Apple and Samsung so much money to have Google search as like the installed on platform search function.
So Samsung might be like, all right, well, we'll just.
But I presume they'll probably still use Google because it's the best.
I don't know. I mean, Perplexity is not Google. It provides a very different result. I experimented for the last 2 weeks with making Perplexity my default browser search engine. It's
How'd-
great.
Yeah, how'd that go?
It's great, but it's not the same. There are so many times where I'm just trying to actually Google something and it doesn't work. But 80% of the time, it's better. So maybe that's enough. But like, it's a little bit annoying at times.
That's interesting. I think like everything's playing out the way Eric Puncher probably like had forecasted it to go. And Google stock is still higher than it was, at the time we were talking about this.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'll remind people that when Nick, we were both gone, you and I were both gone, but Nick was with Steven and a Bitcoiner,
Yeah.
and they asked each other what's their fattest pitch. One of Nick's fattest pitches was Google. Google was one of Nick's fattest pitches.
Yeah.
I
know.
I wonder if he's changing his tune. But this to me seems we'll see.
It's an existential risk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you talk about all these like stocks that you want to own and decisions that you want to make. But I guess my question is, do you actually even make these decisions?
Do we ever make any decisions?
So let's sink in and get into this. The question really is like a question of morality, a question of like existence itself and what it means to make any decision. And it's rooted in the fundamental nature of like who or what you might even be. You're here, you're flesh, you're conscious, and you are making choices, or you think you are. And so there's this question of the idea of free will versus determinism.
Determinism meaning that all of your choices are already preordained.
Essentially. Maybe I'm very excited for this topic, if it wasn't already obvious, and we even titled the episode around this. So I think where to begin is, in every moment, you have this belief as a conscious, sentient human being that you're making choices. And I think that you want to believe that you are making those choices. And it would be absurd to think that you're not making those choices. And so to kick the discussion off, maybe just even like your perspective on, and I'll of course share mine, and I have a few things I want to share on this, but I'm just curious your baseline on this through adulthood, like maybe from the moment that you first became conscious to now. Has your position on this changed at all? Like have you always been one way or the other?
I think as a person who sees life only through my own existence, right? My own eyes. I think my answer is going to be biased, right? Like I think my answer is going to be biased by the fact that I believe I can make my own choice. It's because like my existence exists through this. But as I zoom out from that, what I wonder is like to what degree do I actually get to make choice? Okay, so when I asked for you to leave the room earlier, I was talking with Adrian.
Well, I read between the lines
and
there.
Caesar.
Yeah.
Like I was asking some of the guys in Urbani's office. I was like, so how do you guys perceive this? Because like I wanted some other opinions on it. Like, how do you view it? And it was interesting to hear that like it becomes obvious to me that there are external forces that do impact our choice, right? So it's not like clear agency that anybody has. Nobody has like very clear agency. Okay? I fully admit that. Like, so here's a simple one. Like, if I see a girl in a club in Las Vegas. We were just in Las Vegas in a club. Like, how am I going to respond to a girl in Las Vegas in a club? Well, I'm going to respond like very much in a way that has been like manipulated by my upbringing and, you know, like my external forces to an extent that like I almost like am not operating as an agent, but just like as a robot in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So like I think like I believe that I have agency, but I also believe that there's like areas of non-agency. And I'll make like an example to like the physical realm. The physical realm is very clearly deterministic, in my opinion. So like you get like a high pressure system coming in against a low pressure system, and you get a tornado.
Yep.
Right? So
Yep.
like the physical realm is very deterministic in my view. But you can apply that to many things. Like you can apply the physical realm. Like I talked about this with Caesar beforehand. Like, so say a bat hits a ball and the ball travels 395 feet and it's a home run. Like that's a physical realm, like causality that's deterministic. But like somebody determined that they want to hold this wooden stick and swing it and hit it. So like I believe that there's like both can exist.
Yeah. Duality.
I believe that. I believe that.
You're a dualist.
I believe that both things exist.
This is what Descartes believed.
And there's been a ton of renowned philosophers who believe in determinism. Like just to be clear, like
Oh, totally. And many that are more libertarian and believe in free will.
totally.
And many that believe in a combination
Yeah.
or a dualism, to your point.
Yeah.
I mean, the most important thing to say is no one knows.
Is this one of those unknowables, kind of like God? Like, is this an unknowable?
Damn. You know, I don't know that, but I think that there are ways of viewing things that are in line with nature. And as human beings in our finite conscious experience, we can align ourselves with that. As scientists, as people that are in the pursuit of truth. But I think there's limits to it. So I do think that there are limits to what we can know. But this area of free will versus determinism is definitely not like one of those like, yeah, it's done. We have free will at all. So what I thought I would do, I loved your description. So what you described is like the mind being separate from the physical nature and the body.
Yeah.
Right? That's essentially what you described. So I thought I would like just give like a bit of an overview. And I really care about this topic, so I just kind of like jotted down some things that I thought we should like just prepare like a bit of a scaffolding. So first of all, like what is this question? What is the point of this question? It's a question of human nature. It's a question of responsibility. Who has it? It's a question of ethics. And there's a few different ways of viewing it. There's determinism, which, as you said, is like this preordained, predestined thing. I mean, I basically wrote it as like every event or state of being or life is determined by the preceding events
Yeah.
and laws. And then there is indeterminacy or quantum mechanics, which is just everything is sort of uncertain. And then there's compatibilism, which is that these things can coexist. We have free will and we have determinism, but they can actually coexist. And then we have this like full-blown liberation free will. Okay? And that's like, I would say the base of the majority of the positions and the arguments. Now, within these, there are some really great thinkers that are 1,000 times smarter than me. And I think these are the people I lean to, even though I hope to have my own set of beliefs based on the standing of on the shoulders of these giants. So in the determinism camp, we have people like Spinoza, who's my favorite philosopher. He had a
Really?
few things to say about this.
First of all, I didn't know that was your favorite philosopher. That's pretty
Yeah,
bad.
I've talked about this. So Baruch Spinoza is a Dutch Jew, I believe 1600s, 16 to 1700s, and he had a few motifs to his like beliefs. He wrote the book called Ethics. It's phenomenal. Highly recommend it. One substance, God, aka nature, is everything. So the way you described those two different modalities, he would say those are all one substance. And he would also argue that every action or the various characteristics and things that occur are just experiences and modalities of that substance, but it's all of the main substance. There's one nature, there's one God, there's one modality, that's it. Everything that ever will be is this nature. He believes in causal determinism, that everything happens according to the necessity of the universe's nature. It's all determined causally by prior events, and that there's an illusion of free will because we have this perception that we can exercise optionality, but this is due to just ignorance of the true causes behind our actions. So his argument is that we're exercising what appears like free will, but we're ignorant of what causes our ability to exercise it. And he refuses Cartesian dualism, which is what you were alluding to earlier, which is this separation of mind and physical, and that this encompasses everything. Then you have Einstein, who also had a deterministic universe, and he famously said, God does not play dice. That's one of his most famous quotes. You have Sam Harris, who also falls into this camp, which is like a neuroscientific perspective. He's a neuroscientist, PhD, that free will is an illusion shaped by brain processes. This is all just the brain misleading you. Okay, so that's like that camp. In the quantum mechanics camp, Heisenberg put a wrench in everything. Heisenberg, not from Breaking Bad, but
A legendary,
by the way, what
legendary
a
theorist.
phenomenal show. You put me onto that. I mean,
no.
everyone did, but you really pushed it.
No, I haven't even finished it. If I'm being honest,
What?
I watched the first couple seasons.
Oh shit! I didn't know that. I'm further along than you are. I'm on season 3.
Yeah, I felt like it got too dark for me.
It does get pretty dark.
It's
Walt
beyond.
gets pretty gnarly.
It's a little beyond my capacity as like a vibes
As a
maximalist.
Zen Eric. Yeah. No, it does. There have been episodes where Eric and I have been watching, and we're just like, "Whoa, that was a lot. That was a lot. It's heavy." So, Heisenberg introduced indeterminacy on the quantum level, right? So there's randomness, but not necessarily free will. And this is all about quantum mechanics and wave particle, and that waves are all probabilistic. They're occurring in all places at all times, but our view of them determines their placement. And I'm by no means a quantum sort of theorist right here, of course, obviously, right? But the point is that there are people that dedicate their whole lives to this, that are basically looking at this probabilistic theory and saying, when you view this on a microscopic level, it appears that these electrons are existing simultaneously in many places at the same time, and it depends on our viewership of them. And there's formulas to understand all of this and how it occurs and why it occurs. And so what a philosopher or someone who's viewing this might say is that even though that might be true on a microscopic level, on a macroscopic level, it isn't. And so even Heisenberg is not clear in his position that there's so much happening on a microscopic level in this indeterminacy principle, but that it doesn't affect the macroscopic level of things. So meaning the way the universe plays out, and even at a sort of, you could argue, macroscopic level, our personal disposition toward things and the free will that we might have. And then there's compatibilism, which I talked about. Key thinkers might be David Chalmers, a philosopher a lot of people out there might know. And he says that conscious experience itself might allow for a form of free will compatible with deterministic processes. But even he's leaning in his compatibilism more toward like the possibility of determinism. And then when you have full-blown liberation free will, this is that genuine free will exists. It's not determined by any prior causes. And key thinkers here, Roger Penrose is probably the one people might know the most. Quantum processes in the brain may allow for free will. This is the essential basis of his argument. So you have these incredible thinkers spending a lifetime processing the different ways that we might live in a deterministic or a free will universe. And I guess where it lands, I guess I'm curious where it lands for you, but I think for me, being that I am a person who believes in objective truth, this is what I find interesting, and you might as well. I'm curious. We've talked about this discussion, and this is an area where we have differing beliefs. I believe in objective truth. I believe in an objective reality. And if I'm not mistaken, you believe that the subjective is more powerful.
Yes.
And what's ironic, or maybe not even ironic, but like symbolic of our positions on this, is that a subjective belief is more in line with the belief in free will, whereas an objective belief of the experience of the universe and the laws of the universe is more in line with determinism. And so I thought that I believed in free will for so long, but I actually realized I don't think I do to the degree that I thought. And I think I'm much more in line with Spinoza than I ever wanted to acknowledge. But I think there's free will in determinism, which I'll get to later. But do you believe in a subjective reality? And does that line up with your free will?
Yeah, I don't believe in an objective reality at all. Like, I don't believe in like a truth. I've tried so hard to find truth, and it's so elusive because I don't think it exists, and that's the point. And like, I don't think it does. I think it's all dependent on so many different variables to the place where like truth does not exist. And I think what we aspire to do here and in our Discord and everything, it's like you get a lot of people who are like curious, right? You get like,
yep.
We like, I think that's like the commonality we have amongst each other is like we have this like group that like is interested to continue asking. Okay, so I'm gonna go off a slight tangent here, and just as a way to portray the antithesis. Okay, so like when I went to San Diego State, you were also there, but I went also to San Diego State with 35,000 other kids, and like one of those kids was this girl who was like a nutrition scientist at the time, you know, and she was telling me this or that based on what she was told, right? Mm-hmm. And like what she was told was that a calorie is a calorie, and like if you sprint for a mile or if you walk for a mile, you're going to burn the same amount of calories, the same as if you eat a slice of cake versus if you eat, you know, like rice and chicken. And I was like, well, that just doesn't like make sense to me in like a world that in which I live. You know, like I get that like that's something you were taught, but that doesn't make sense to me in like a practical sense. And then like for me to ask her that was like an egregious question because she was like, no, the teacher told me.
Ooh.
Right. And like that, I think that is like the big red flag that we would get, is because we're the type, we meaning you, me, Nick and Steven, but like not only that, but like everybody in our realm is like the type that like wants to validate, verify, test, question. Like that's who we are, right?
Yeah.
And with this like question of, do we have any agency in life? I just think that it's such a, I don't know, kind of like a cop out where you're like, nah, no agency. And I think that like we're maybe convoluting things in which you clearly don't have agency. Like there's many areas in which you clearly don't have any agency. I get that. Physical realm, you don't have agency. And then even in like the metaphysical realm, where like your thoughts pop up, which I have a ton of questions for you on. Like, what are these thoughts? Where do they come from? Like, what are these things? Are they tangible? Like, what are these? Like, these things come into my mind. They're called thoughts.
Yeah.
They come from somewhere.
Yep.
A lot of times they're not my choice, right? Like a lot of times they just like,
they literally just show up.
a lot of times they're just like happening to me instead of like me thinking, right?
Or coming through you, and
Yeah.
and then they want to express themselves.
Totally. Like they're happening
Like a
to
muse.
they're happening to me.
Yep.
And then sometimes I can channel them and I can like direct that energy towards my own thought. You know, like I can have my own thought. Like but then I question like, so is this my own thought, or is this just an amalgamation of previous thought that I've been exposed to that I'm now just expressing in my own language, you know, like, which is like, I wonder, like, has original thought like ever come through my brain? Like, I don't know.
What does original mean to you?
I mean, like, so for instance, like Isaac Newton came up with like something that was like seemingly original, right? Like
Yeah.
Newtonian physics was like his like original thought, but it was all based on, you know, previous thought that was introduced to him. So is that original? I don't know. Is that just like him aggregating things better than other people, and it's not an original thought, it's an aggregated thought.
Mm-hmm.
So original thought doesn't exist.
You're asking good questions, very good questions that we all ask. I think the hardest part that maybe I should have even said up front is that free will, or the lack of it, is probably one of those hard to swallow pills, like as you would say.
Yeah.
So the idea of not having free will has to be, I think there's like two core questions that are extremely important to people. One is the big problem, like what is consciousness? Meaning, what am I and why am I here? And what the fuck is this? Like, what is this? How did this happen? Who am I? What is my true nature? Was I here always? Am I only here now for these 90 years, or maybe in our lifetime it's 130 or whatever, but am I only here for this and then I'm asleep? Like, that is the biggest question of all for people. And then there's this question of like, ultimately, do I even choose what I get to do while I'm here? So imagine telling someone like, yeah, you get to be here for X amount of years, but by the way, the whole thing was just like pre-set. You have no choice. Everything that's occurring, you're basically an NPC. Like, it's all set. You don't have free will. You don't have this like true agency. Nobody can swallow that easily. I don't know a single person that can swallow that easily. If I tell you that everything you're about to do, I'm going to drop this, I'm going to slap this wine glass over right now. I didn't do it, but you know what I mean. Like I could have done it.
But it wasn't your choice.
Doesn't that feel like agency? And so like most conversations about free will tend to live in that realm of like, look, I can drop the phone if I want to and all that.
Sure.
But that's not what I think is being examined on a physics and philosophical level. What's being examined is that the explosion of information that occurs in existence in and of itself to create the possibility. Like if you're thinking like Spinoza, who believes in infinity as well, not just like a universe that exists. I mean, this is like, it's not clear because he hasn't published a lot of material. He published the ethics, obviously, but it's unclear like his perspective on the Big Bang. Like, did the universe begin or has it always been here? Is
Yeah.
another one of the great questions of all time. I mean, that is fundamentally like one of the most important questions ever.
Yeah.
And so you look at that and you say, okay, we live in a universe that may have always existed. Well, what does that mean? It means that God is nature, and nature is God, and existence is everything on a macroscopic and microscopic level. And everything that has ever occurred, and every decision I make, and everything that occurs, whether it's mind or body, is of the same stuff. It's all of the same stuff, is ultimately what Spinoza is arguing. And so the action I take, even on a human level, but on an electron level, is while there might be the illusion of free will, was determined because it's all part of this story. And that story is going through infinite loops. Infinite loops. This is the craziest part of the concept of reality, is what it's not a line, it's an infinity symbol.
Okay, I have a question about the infinite loops. So, one thing, as I like sit and breathe right before you, what I like think I know to be true based on my own experience, right? Like I've lived for almost 40 years, and now I sit in front of you with the wisdom of almost 40 years. What I think I know is that I, in my life, have made decisions. Whether those decisions came from the subconscious or the conscious or whatever, I have like determined to do one thing or another thing or whatever, right? I think what I imagine because of this like truth to me, what I think is that the multiverse makes a lot of sense. Like there is a multiverse.
Yeah, we should go there.
And like the multiverse, by that I mean that there are like different tendrils of reality that I could pursue had I chosen in my version of myself to do, like, you know, I told you at one point in time I worked for the San Diego Chargers. What if I continue to work there? What if I continued to date the girl that I was dating at the time that I worked there? What if I chose to do those things that I was doing at that time versus this time? And like these different tendrils of reality are what I consider to be the multiverse. You know, like the decisions that I would have made had I continued to pursue them, that would be one little tendril of the multiverse.
Totally.
And now I'm on a tendril of the multiverse that is, if I make all the decisions that I've made, you know, since we've met each other, right?
Yeah. And they're existing simultaneously, and you're jumping between these and creating this one linear existence based on the multitudes of possibilities. I mean, the reason I find that theory so fascinating is because it ties nicely into quantum mechanics. also multiverse theory, and that's something we haven't really discussed and not even mentioned yet, simulation theory. And so simulation hypothesis slash simulation theory is probably like something that should be like held to the same degree of like philosophy these days as like any of the other things that we've talked about today, like determinism, libertarianism, compatibilism. Like all of these are sort of like, now simulation theory is like a sort of religion these days. It's a religion of like the tech world for to a huge degree, and I think it's important to bring that into the conversation as well. And I would say, I think that I mean what's happening over the last 5 to 10 years, in particular the last 5, is that the multiverse theory is becoming one of the predominant theories of physics. So what does that tell you?
I don't know. It seems like the most reasonable because I've like, first of all, one, I'm here now. Like, I know that I'm here now with you talking about financial stuff because that's like what I bring to the table. Like I'm often talking about financial stuff, but like it wasn't so long ago that the version of me was talking about sports stuff only because that was like what I was focused on, perhaps. And I just think that is the version that makes sense to me. So like, I think the proper convo, or
I
like,
mean, one of the smartest people of all time literally agrees with you.
well, there's like,
Said, "I think, therefore I am," right? Descartes,
Descartes.
which is just like your previous position. So I get it. Like the idea, it's rooted in the individual consciousness that we all hold. And I think you are clearly holding that as not just you're not just holding that as like fundamental. You're holding that as the baseline of all reality. That's what a subjective belief person is doing. That's what a Cartesian person is doing, is saying cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, meaning like everything is based fundamentally in what I experience and know and my conscious awareness of reality. So I get it.
particularly as I'm experiencing this tendril of my reality, like, because I've even felt, I'll do like a drug or something and I'll feel the gears of sort of the mechanism turning in a way. I've felt it. I felt it where it's like, okay, you're going down a path that your behaviors, your actions, your choices are now changing this tendril of existence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not to say that the tendrils are deterministic or not. Maybe they are. Like maybe I do drugs one day, now I'm on this tendril, maybe, and it's deterministic that I'm on this tendril and that's where it goes. But I'm just saying I can feel, like I've told you that, like I've felt the cogs turning before in a way that like I feel.
You felt like God.
Or that like God was changing my outcomes. Either that I'm changing my outcomes, or that God's changing my outcomes, or my behaviors are changing my outcomes.
I mean, when you sit and read about religious experience and psychedelic experience, especially of the spiritual type, you read that people feel a oneness, right? Especially with like certain types of psychedelics, with God. And so I think that it is a pathway toward understanding our true nature and the nature of reality. What I felt was something similar to what you're talking about. I did feel that I did have a say. I did. I felt like my soul, on an individual level, was here to experience and exercise its potential to the fullest perspective and did have agency. But I also felt like I was part of this very clear, grand plan and energy and not separate from it. And so in some sense you could argue, like, is that deterministic or is that free will? And so there's a form of dualism there where I am experiencing free will, or perhaps the illusion of free will. I don't know. And yet at the same time, there is a grand directionality and determinism to everything that ever is and ever will be. And what was most clear was that I was one with it, that I was a part of it. And this was the episode I shared this about mushrooms and psilocybin. I said this on the episode, but I said that my life and my entire existence and everything I know was akin to a wave of the ocean splashing onto the shore. And for the time that it's just like shining and melting onto the shore is when I exist. And when it goes back into its whole self is the universe and God itself. But for that time that I'm on shore, I'm conscious, aware, and I experience the illusion of free will. That to me is where things lie, personally speaking.
Love that, by the way. Thank you. Beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Likewise.
That's beautiful.
Likewise.
I think mine, if we agree that like there's no answer to this, and we're just gonna talk in a sense how we view it, I think mine is more akin, like yours is akin to nature, waves splashing. Mine's more akin to a choose your own adventure story.
Ooh,
Okay,
those are my favorite kind of books.
remember those books. You remember those
Oh,
books?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So like maybe not everybody in our Discord and our chat remembers these kind of books, but they were like popular when we were growing up, right? They were called Choose Your Own Adventure books, and
They were so fun.
you would play a character in the book, and you'd get like 30 pages in, and then by like page 30 you'd have to start making choices in the book.
It's like a video game in a book.
It was a video game and a book. Okay, so in this book, you would you'd be like, hey, if you want to like fight the dragon, turn to page 70. If you want to like avoid the dragon, turn to page 210. And you would get these like different choices. And I guess what I'm trying to say by that is like, in the different tendrils of our realities, maybe these things are deterministic. I don't know. But I do think, I've lived for 40 years. I feel like I know that you actually get to choose your tendrils. I'm like pretty certain that you get to choose your tendrils because I've like chosen them so many times. Who to date, who to be friends with, who to like, what job to pursue. Like you like literally get these choices of the tendrils to pursue. And what I'm like conceding to the determinists of the world is like, maybe the outcomes are already pre-written, just like those books were.
Yeah.
Like the book was only 300 pages long, so like we know that the book was determinist because it was already written. But maybe you get to choose your path, perhaps. That's like what I'm conceding. Maybe that's the way.
Max wants to know when the tendril where ETH goes up comes.
Yeah, we've chosen the wrong one, Max. We're fucked. Max, we chose the one where the blockchain is actually worthless because, like, dude, the blockchain is the most pathetic invention on Earth right now.
Oh, Jesus.
It really is.
Take it easy on him.
It really is like the most annoying, pathetic invention on Earth. It like exists like I think I dropped this line a year ago in our Discord. The blockchain exists to speculate on future use cases of the blockchain.
Brother, Kevin Kelly was right.
For now. Yeah, Kevin Kelly's right.
I mean,
Yeah, Kevin Kelly's right.
he was
I mean,
right.
the world in which we
He
live.
called it. He's like, it's boring. It's infrastructure. That's it.
Yeah,
Everything else is nonsense.
and where we are now is
I mean, I get it. He's a futurist. I think he has a better way of viewing these things that are on a larger time horizon than the rest of us. I didn't want to agree with Kevin, but I think he was mostly right.
I'd like to hear his updated opinion. Probably
Yeah,
not
maybe
updated
it's
at all.
changed.
Probably
maybe
not.
it's changed. Oh, sure it has. I'm sure he's taken in new information and thought about it. But
I mean, what I gather, just from my own, like, I'm in this tendril of life. Let's just say I'm in.
yeah, I
this
didn't mean to
tendril-
go crypto all of a sudden.
I'm in
but
this tendril of existence.
It was a funny comment.
And within this tendril of existence, what I can gather is that Bitcoin makes sense. Bitcoin makes sense to me.
How do things like this fit in on a philosophical level? Like, do you just find them funny? Like that we even concern ourselves with things like this? How does one actually?
Well, I mean, sure, like on a grand.
It's a very human thing, right? To
Yeah,
just,
but like what you're asking is very macro. Like, honestly, I think what I don't even remember the philosopher you mentioned, but like I think all the philosophers that you mentioned before that are like deterministic are talking about nature at like a grand scale. Like at the largest scale, of course, life is deterministic.
But they're arguing that grand scale nature of reality is consistent all the way to the atom. So even Einstein argued this. Heisenberg threw a wrench in that.
I mean,
But even Heisenberg's theory...
Einstein was wrong on the very small scale. Like he knows that. Like the quantum scale, Einstein can't comprehend. Like we're clear on that.
True. Yeah. There were certain things that he did not...
And like there's
Yeah.
things that like quantum mechanics are outside the purview of Einsteinian physics.
There are things that, like gravity waves, that didn't come true for almost 100 years or maybe 90 years that Einstein saw and predicted, that long ago.
He's a fucking smart guy. I'm not gonna like,
Incredibly.
throw shade. But like what I'm saying is that like people think they have like a full view when what they have is a full view of their view.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like you have full view of your view. That's not the full view
Yeah.
of everything.
Yeah.
And what I think about this like determinism versus agency is like what I think is like probably the guys that are like fully zoomed out, like they're saying like nature is deterministic. Probably true, dude. Like almost certainly true. But like it's not deterministic in terms of what I'm gonna choose to do. But again, I don't create a ripple even in the ocean that
Yeah.
exists,
So whether my experience on psilocybin is correct or not, and maybe even what I experience is the illusion of free will, which could very well be the case, where I mostly land personally is that we do live in a deterministic universe, and actually there's incredible comfort and freedom in that. I used to believe that meant that I lived without any agency. And I don't think that's the case. I think I have full agency as far as Armand is concerned. But I don't think that my feeling and or illusion of agency is at odds with the deterministic nature of reality. And that itself is a whole episode, like a whole podcast, because we could go into why that might be the case. But that's my position. And at least right now, today, and it might change tomorrow, of course, because that's how we roll. And that's how everyone should roll. But there is one thing that I think is important is there's actually way more comfort and freedom in accepting these laws, if you might call them laws of reality, than one might think. When you consider that the scale of the universe, which is, I think, a very important part of this discussion, there is a top-down aspect to all reality, and a oneness to all reality that is a fact of life, that embodies all things, which means thought. To your very, very, very first point of this whole discussion, thought is the same, which is aka mind, as the creation of matter and how it forms into planets and animals and bacteria and human beings and conscious experience. That level of processing is fucking crazy. Like what I just said, actually, if you really consider it, is fucking mind-blowing. That both thought and everything that has ever existed could coexist into one realm, and all of it is on this deterministic sort of like track of experiencing itself is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing because anyone who has ever watched a single video about the scale of the universe knows that you are impossible. Where you exist in the scheme, in the grand scheme of the universe, is impossible. The fact that you exist at all is absurd. It's absurd. It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. You got to give it up. And that's why I fall into that camp right now of, yes, I exhibit agency, or at least the illusion of it, but I'm actually quite comfortable with God. I'm quite comfortable with the universe. When I say God, I do not mean the Abrahamic version of it. I mean the Spinoza nature oneness of everything in the totality of everything that has ever existed. And I am quite comfortable in knowing that I exist in that. That to me is like, there's a freedom in that.
I agree. Okay.
I like it.
Okay. I get it now. I think I get it. Oh, what a great pod, because I get it now. It's so simple to me. And
in what sense?
Here's what it is for me. You see, like Carl Sagan, right? Is he the guy who like was commenting on the photo of Earth
the
from
pale blue dot.
The pale blue dot. He says like
With that voice.
Yes, he says all kings, all everything that's ever existed has existed on this pale blue dot.
Yes.
And I think like when we're talking about agency on like the galactic scale, we like none of our little ripples, what you choose to run a startup, or I run a investment advisory firm, like that doesn't matter on the galactic scale that Carl Sagan's talking about. It's deterministic when you zoom out far enough.
That's what they're saying.
Yes.
That's what all these philosophers are saying.
And it's like, but when you get micro enough, and if all you're trying to do is like help out your wife and child, then you have like, it's not a guise of determinism. It's actual determinism. You can like actually do things to help yourself in a very micro way, on a micro scale. But none of it actually matters when you zoom out to like that cosmic level that Carl Sagan's talking about, or anybody, all these philosophers are talking about, which I agree with. But like in the meantime, make life more comfortable for you, because you literally can.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, dude. I think we did it. We just hit 2 hours. Perfect timing.
Yeah, I feel like I got
I
it.
feel complete. There's no completion to this type of discussion, but maybe it has something to do with me needing to go pee. But
Yeah, I got to pee too.
I'm complete. Thank you for being here, live chat. Thank you for being here, Alfalfa Universe. Thank you for being here, everyone that has ever participated, even if just one episode. Thank you to all the new people. We love doing this. We're just 2 of 4 people here. The other 2 are even more incredible than we are. Well, Eric's a brilliant guy, but I'm saying that about these guys. I feel privileged to get to do this this podcast with these guys, and we love you a long time. Please share the episode if you enjoyed it, and I think that's it. Anything else, Eric?
Yeah, what a lovely episode with you. We went deep. We went into the Marianas Trench today. We went so deep, and
we did it.
It was fun, man.
It was fun. I'm gonna go relieve myself.
Yeah, you deserve it.
All right, love you all a long time. Thank you.